It is official. The Eagles have sent Kiko Alonso and Byron Maxwell to the Dolphins. It looks like draft pick compensation of some sort is coming back to Philadelphia here. John McMullen from 97.3 ESPN.com. We're going to jump to him first here, a little earlier than normal, and get his instant reaction on this, John. It seems like if you were part of the Chip Kelly era, you are no longer welcomed here unless your name is Bradford.
Yeah, it's starting to look personal a little bit. I just tweeted that out, but I was talking to people down in Florida, and it looks like Miami was kind of pushing for the Kiko Alonso aspect of this deal. So it could have been the fact that they wanted him to take the big money contract to Byron Maxwell, trying to lock that down. But if you look at Howie Roseman, there's also a report, obviously, we already knew DeMarco Murray was on the trading block, but now Ryan Matthews is on the trading block. So it looks like anybody who was painted with the brush of Chip Kelly, the Eagles aren't necessarily going to cry if they move them. And you saw it today, Byron Maxwell, Kiko Alonso going down to South Florida. Pending physicals, remember, it can't be official to the start of the new league year, which is Wednesday. But all indications are it's a done deal, and it's going to happen.
All right, let's take a look at the first Maxwell, 6-year, $63 million deal. If they get anything back from Maxwell, is that a win? Or are we just saying, look, Maxwell didn't play well, but he could be a better fit with Jim Schwartz? Are we so sour on Maxwell that we're applauding this deal, even though, is there more to it? Is there more depth to it than just Maxwell didn't play well? This is a great move by Howie Roseman getting out of this deal.
Well, I think there's more depth to it because I think Jim Schwartz would have used him correctly. He would have been much better this season. He would have played a lot more zone, and he would have played to his strengths. And I think my main criticism of the Chip Kelly regime is the fact that they were so scheme-oriented. They didn't look at the talent their particular players had. They just plugged them in. And it wasn't about the fact that Byron Maxwell wasn't a strong man-to-man coverage corner. He was a good zone coverage corner in Seattle. But Bill Davis played a lot of man, and they didn't change anything. So at times he looked like a very bad player. He's not. He's an above-average player. But the second part of that is he doesn't have an above-average player contract. He's got a contract like a number one corner in this league. He was never going to live up to that. You and I have talked about that basically since the day he was signed. He's just not that kind of player. So I always thought it was doomed to failure in Philadelphia because the fan base was going to look at that contract and expect Deion Sanders, and all they were getting was a decent zone corner.
John McMullen, 97.3 ESPN.com. The deal between the Dolphins and the Eagles is done. Some contract work needs to happen between the Dolphins and Maxwell. Alonso is okay in that respect here, John. The Eagles have the 77th and the 79th pick. That is 2 third-rounders. The Dolphins have the 42nd pick, a second-rounder, and the 73rd pick, which is a third-rounder. What do you believe would be fair compensation in return for both Alonso and Maxwell?
Well, it's interesting. I don't think one of my main criticisms of this deal is I don't think Kiko Alonso has any value basically right now coming off last season in the fact he performed so poorly, wasn't healthy, and remember he had not played the year before because of the torn ACL. So you're basically talking about a guy who hasn't performed at a good level in two calendar years. So I don't think he has much value other than the fact that his cap number is low, and it's not certainly something that's going to hamstring you as far as money goes. And that was my criticism, the fact that the Eagles probably should have brought him to camp and just rolled the dice and see if he was healthy, and maybe he could regain some of that rookie form he had in Buffalo. That said, if the Dolphins were pushing for it, and the angle from Miami's standpoint was, we'll take Maxwell's contract, but only if you throw in Kiko Alonso, starts to make a little more sense to me. and we'll see if it shapes up that way. As far as the compensation, it seems like from what I'm hearing, there's picks going both ways. So I'm hoping what you just kind of alluded to, and the fact that maybe they can move up by sending a third-round pick to Miami and possibly get a second-round pick back. That might be pie in the sky. Hopefully that's what helps. But if you look at the contract of Maxwell, if you look at the production of Alonso, and you look at the salary going back to Miami, really you can't expect much other than late-round picks unless you're shifting, as we said, a third-round pick for a second-round pick, something of that nature.
Yeah. Now, I mean, realistically, you look at the situation with Kiko Alonso, I wonder if Jim Schwartz was consulted on this at all, and they were like, hey, is this guy key to your defense? And he said, no, not really. I mean, was that where possibly the Eagles are saying, or was Maxwell something they wanted to get rid of so bad that they didn't care whether or not Alonso was a part of it or not?
Yeah, and that's what we have to answer, because if the mentality is let's just get Chip Kelly's people out of here, I have a big problem with Kiko Alonso being part of this deal.
You do?
Yes, I do. Conversely, if Miami wouldn't accept the contract of Byron Maxwell without Kiko Alonso thrown into the deal, which is what some reporters in Miami believe, then it starts to make a little more sense, as I said. And if the Eagles needed to have a throw-in to get rid of that contract, well, then I think it's a little more acceptable. From the other point, it looks personal. If that's not the case, Mike, if Miami didn't sort of insist on Kiko being thrown into this deal, I've been a staunch supporter of the job Howie Roseman has done, his job back. But this strikes as something very, very personal. And then when you couple it with the fact that Ryan Matthews is on the trading block, DeMarco Murray was already on the trading block, all of a sudden anybody signed by Chip Kelly, it looks like he wants to get rid of. I don't think Chip Kelly did a good job from a salary cap standpoint by any stretch of the imagination. But that doesn't mean everything he touched was incorrect.
Well, Bradford, they did bring Bradford back, but I guess that kind of shows you that they legitimately liked what they saw from Bradford. But let me bring this then up. If he's kind of flipping Chip off in every possible way, and he's able to trade this Maxwell deal, would you be stunned then if he could figure out a way to move Murray?
No, I wouldn't be stunned. How he's showing he's very, very inventive. And there's one of the things I said when this story broke early this morning was the fact that the Miami Dolphins have a reputation for going after big names. And it's dated back. You've seen it hasn't worked for them. You remember the big money deal they gave Mike Wallace. They gave Ndamukong Suh the biggest money defensive contract in the history of this league. And none of this stuff ever works out for them. And all of a sudden, they're bringing in a guy the Eagles made a mistake on in Byron Maxwell because it's a big name. And all of a sudden, Kiko Alonso's got a relatively big name that the production doesn't match. So hopefully Howie took advantage of the Dolphins in this standpoint. And another organization known for not being the smartest in this league is the Dallas Cowboys. And if he can kind of convince them, hey, take DeMarco back. He wants to be in North Texas. He's building a house there. He loves it. Who knows? Maybe he can get rid of that albatross as a contract also. When you look at things from that perspective, hey, it's great that he got rid of Byron Maxwell's contract. It would be great if he got rid of DeMarco Murray's contract. Those things you can't debate. You really can't. When you're talking about a guy like Kiko Alonso, it's a very manageable number. Then you start, the antenna starts to go up. So I think that is the key to this particular trade. Did the Dolphins push for it, or did the Eagles just say, we don't want Kiko Alonso? If the Eagles said, we don't want to agree with that.
Well, and John, if you read the tea leaves this morning, Ann Rappaport's report had Maxwell's name on it. It wasn't until later on in the afternoon that Alonso's name has been thrown into the mix. I would assume then the Dolphins requested Alonso, if you're reading it from that aspect.
Yeah, and that's what the people in Miami believe. So I am sort of shifting towards that thought process because I talked to two different reporters texted in Miami, and they believe that's the case. So hopefully it shifts that way for the Eagles because if it doesn't, I don't think it makes a lot of sense. And, this blockbuster trade, Mike, there's also a report out there that people aren't talking about because of this, obviously, is such big news, that the Eagles were going to make a move for Kirk Cousins if the Redskins didn't franchise him. And people have forgotten that already because, as you mentioned, they did extend Sam Bradford, but clearly Sam Bradford was not plan A. It's just that was the best option available. They're thrilled, as you see by the evidence of the length of the contract, with Sam Bradford either.
Let's fill people in on that because you're right. The Redskins, this is from Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk, the Redskins were concerned that the Eagles were going to pursue Kirk Cousins, and that put them in position to put the franchise tag, the transition tag on him. He got the franchise tag. And the Redskins were concerned that the Eagles would pursue Kirk Cousins. So you're right. It sounds like Bradford was maybe not their first option and that they would be prepared to get rid of another Chip Kelly guy if they had the opportunity to.
Exactly. So I by no stretch of the imagination does that Sam Bradford contract smack of anything like the Eagles believe he's the long-term answer. Obviously, by the length alone, we know they look at him as a bridge quarterback. They believe he's the best option for 2016. But beyond that, I don't think they've indicated they have all that much confidence in Sam Bradford. So that's just another indication of – and by the way, on all of these individual aspects, I don't disagree with Howie Roseman's thinking on Byron Maxwell or DeMarco Murray or Sam Bradford or any of these players other than Alonso. And the only reason I worry about Alonso is because, as I said, the cap number is manageable. It wouldn't have been any issue to bring him in, see if he's healthy in August, maybe lightning strikes, maybe have an all-pro player like he was as a rookie in Buffalo. Probably wasn't going to happen, but it wouldn't have hurt you because the cap number is so light.
Well, and you asked the question, is the potential of Alonso and Maxwell, both guys were highly regarded when they came here, is that potential more valuable than getting another second-round pick or maybe adding a third-round pick? So clearing out some money and clearing out two talented but disappointing players for a couple of draft picks. Overall, John, do you like that deal with that potential, in the backdrop?
Well, it's interesting because a number of dominoes fall, and I'm going to be interested. I want to talk to Jim Schwartz at one point and get his thought process because I thought when he came in, he was going to use Byron Maxwell a lot better. I thought you were going to see a sharp improvement. Again, he's never going to be a number one corner, a lockdown type of guy, but I thought he would be a solid player with Jim Schwartz running that defense. And now you have to talk about this. I think makes it more likely that Nolan Carroll is brought back. I think it shapes up at number 13 in the first round. You have to start looking at cornerbacks, whether it's Alexander from Clemson or Hargraves from Florida State. Those guys are in the conversation now as far as the draft. And then at linebacker, just last week, Connor Barwin was preparing to move to defensive end. Does this now mean he's going to be the strong side linebacker and Michael Kendricks moves to the weak side? Before this, we thought Kendricks would be the strong side linebacker. We thought Alonso would be the will linebacker and Jordan Hicks in the middle, obviously. So all these dominoes start to fall, and this really, really changes the Eagles' defense moving forward.
Well, and with Alonso gone, it looked like it would be Hicks, Alonso, and Kendricks in some form with Barwin moving to the line. They might need to find an outside pass rusher, and maybe they look at that situation and decided that they didn't like Alonso there, and they liked Kendricks more than Alonso to be the weak side guy.
Yeah, and that's possible. But again, you need a sand linebacker, and I don't know if Connor Barwin, he's never played that in the 4-3. He's always been a 3-4 player. So you have to see how that shakes out. And you're right. Now there's an option. You need 3 defensive ends. You got Vinny Curry, you got Brandon Grant. People have talked about Mario Williams because of the history, but he wants $10 million a year. So I don't think he's a fit for this team. The depth, say what you want about Maxwell and Alonso, and neither played well last season, but both projected to play better under Jim Schwartz. And now you've taken a significant hit, if not for just depth purposes only, because now you have some glaring holes on that defense.
Yeah. All right, John. Boy, what an unbelievable bombshell right there at the bottom of the hour here. We find out that the Eagles have most likely just finalizing the deal, which can't be official till Wednesday. Kiko Alonso and Byron Maxwell heading to Miami. The Eagles will get some sort of draft pick compensation back in return.